Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into the Sunrise, Florida real estate market today. Specifically, we're looking at single-family homes.
Yeah.
Those in the $500,000 to $750,000 range. We're going to cover the trends from 2019 all the way to 2024.
Yeah.
I have to say, I've been digging through some market data and articles, and I think we've got some fascinating trends to unpack, especially around how the pandemic, really kind of shook things up. And to help us make sense of all of this, we've got our expert here. So glad to have you back. What jumps out at you from all this?
Well, it's just fascinating to see how these big events like a pandemic really impact a very specific part of the market,
Yeah.
And I think for anyone listening who's thinking about Sunrise, it's about understanding how those ripples are still being felt today.
Right, right. So let's kick things off with this idea of active listings. Now, I know that sounds a little jargony, but it really just means, how many homes are actually available to buy at a given time? And our data shows this dramatic dip in 2020, right when the pandemic hit. Not a huge surprise, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense when you think about it. Uncertainty was so high, people hunkering down, not a lot of folks making big moves like selling their homes. But what's interesting is what happened next. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because even though things have kind of stabilized,
Yeah.
you know, the number of active listings in 2023 and 2024 is still way lower compared to pre-pandemic levels. It's almost like this bottleneck effect that just hasn't gone away.
Mm.
So for someone listening who's, say, thinking about buying or selling in Sunrise right now,
Yeah.
what does this whole low inventory situation mean for them?
Well, for buyers, it means they need to be ready to act fast. They might even find themselves in a bidding war, which can be a little intimidating if you're not prepared. But then on the other hand, for sellers, well, this low inventory really works in their favor, creates that sense of urgency and can drive those prices up.
So basically it's a seller's market, at least in terms of inventory. Speaking of hot markets, let's talk about actual sales figures from, let's say, 2018 to 2023. We see a pretty clear spike during those pandemic years, with 2021 being a real standout year.
Yeah, it's almost like the pandemic flipped a switch. Suddenly, everyone's working remotely, interest rates are super low, people start reevaluating their living situations, space becomes this premium. And Sunrise, with its reputation for family-friendly neighborhoods and that, amazing Florida sunshine, it just became super attractive.
Yeah, that whole work from anywhere trend definitely seemed to fuel that desire for more space, right? Both indoors and out. And it's interesting to see how, even though the market has cooled down a bit from that, peak in 2021, sales in 2023 are still higher than what we saw before the pandemic.
That's the key takeaway here. It seems like Sunrise's popularity isn't just a pandemic thing. It's a more sustainable, shift in what buyers are looking for. Something about Sunrise is really resonating with people, making them want to put down roots.
Okay, so we've got low inventory, high demand,
Mm-hmm.
which, as you might guess, has a big impact on price. And our sources point to this fascinating trend. During those peak pandemic years, it wasn't uncommon to see homes selling for over asking price, but now it seems like we're seeing a narrowing of that gap,
Yeah.
between list price and final sale price.
Exactly. Back then, bidding wars were so common, pushing prices way up.
Yeah.
But as the market kind of finds its footing, buyers are getting a little more cautious. Sellers have to be more realistic about pricing.
Right.
But that's not to say it's not still a competitive market.
Right. So it sounds like whether you're buying or selling, understanding these pricing trends is super crucial. You really got to do your research, know what's realistic, be ready to adjust your strategy accordingly.
Absolutely. And this is where having a seasoned real estate agent on your side can make all the difference. Someone who can help interpret the data, spot opportunities, and navigate those sometimes tricky negotiations. It's about having someone who's not just, in the game, but really understands the rules.
Yeah, I love that analogy, like a real estate strategist, almost like a coach in your corner.
Exactly. And when you think about the specific things that make Sunrise so attractive to buyers, it goes beyond just numbers, right? Our sources paint this really vibrant picture of the city. It makes a lot of sense why people are flocking there.
Yeah, let's dive into that a bit. I'm picturing family-friendly neighborhoods, top-rated schools, those gorgeous Florida parks, and of course that sunshine we keep talking about. Am I on the right track?
You got it. But it's more than just sunshine and good schools, right? Sunrise has this really strategic location. It's close enough to the excitement of, Fort Lauderdale and Miami, but with a more relaxed suburban feel.
Okay, so it's like the best of both worlds, the tranquility of suburban life, but with the convenience of having the city nearby. That's a pretty appealing combo, especially for folks who are trying to, juggle work, family,
Yeah.
and maybe even a little fun.
Exactly. And, it's that emphasis on lifestyle that I find really interesting here. It's not just about finding a house, it's about finding a community,
Hmm.
a place where you can build a life.
Yeah.
And Sunrise seems to offer that in spades.
I love that way of looking at it. It really is about the whole package.
Speaking of packages, let's look at what you actually get in a single family home. In that $500 to $750,000 range, we have some data on the most common features. I think it'll appeal to your sense of, well, comfort and style.
Okay, I'm ready for the house tour. Hit me with the details. What are we talking about here?
Think spacious layouts. 3 or more bedrooms are pretty standard in this price range. You'll likely find homes with, outdoor living spaces, maybe a pool, patio, big backyard, perfect for barbecues. And inside, expect to see some modern upgrades. Kitchens with sleek appliances, open floor plans, that create a real sense of flow.
Sounds like a pretty sweet setup. I bet those outdoor spaces are a huge draw, especially with all that Florida sunshine. It's like having an extra living room. But in the fresh air,
Absolutely. And it goes back to that idea of lifestyle that we were talking about earlier. People are prioritizing spaces that, enhance their well-being indoors and out. And it's interesting to see how those preferences are reflected in what features are most in demand in Sunrise.
so it's like the market is responding to what people actually want and need. And speaking of needs, let's shift gears a bit and talk about I don't know, the nitty-gritty of buying and selling in Sunrise.
Yeah, let's get practical. We've covered a lot of ground here, market trends, pricing, the lifestyle, those desirable features. But how does it all translate into action for someone who's actually thinking about making a move?
That's the million-dollar question. We've got all this information, but what should our listener actually be doing differently based on what we've learned?
That's where we need to get really specific. Tailor our advice to whether someone's coming at this from a buyer's perspective or a seller's perspective.
Okay, I like that. Let's break it down step by step. First up, let's talk to the buyers out there. What's your top tip for someone who's serious about buying a home in Sunrise?
If you're serious about buying in Sunrise, you need to be prepared to act decisively. It's a competitive market, and hesitation can cost you your dream home.
So get pre-approved for a mortgage, have your wish list ready, and be prepared to make a strong offer when you find that perfect property.
Precisely. But even before you get to that stage, you need to choose the right real estate agent, someone who can guide you and, negotiate effectively on your behalf. In fact, there's someone I always recommend to my friends who are buying in the area, Antonio Ortega. He really knows this market inside and out, and he is fantastic at finding his clients the perfect homes, even when inventory is low.
That's a great tip. Having the right agent can make all the difference. Any other advice for buyers?
Don't underestimate the emotional side of buying a home. It's easy to get caught up in the frenzy of a hot market, But it's important to stay grounded and make sure the decisions you're making align with your long-term goals.
That's such an important point. It's not just about winning a bidding war, it's about finding a place where you can truly thrive.
Exactly. And speaking of thriving, let's switch gears and talk to the sellers out there. What do they need to keep in mind in a market like Sunrise?
Yeah, let's flip the script and see what advice we have for those who are thinking of selling their homes. So let's say I'm ready to sell my Sunrise home. What's the most important thing I need to know?
Pricing.
Okay.
Pricing. It's all about finding that sweet spot, a price that's attractive to buyers, but also make sure you get a fair return on your investment.
Okay, so how do I figure out what that sweet spot actually is?
Well, research. Look at comparable properties that have recently sold in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
Think about your home's unique features, any upgrades you've made. And this is another area where having a great real estate agent can be huge. They can help you analyze the market data, understand what buyers are willing to pay, and position your home for a successful sale.
Makes sense. Like having an expert appraiser on your side, someone who really knows the local market. You mentioned Antonio Ortega earlier as a great buyer's agent. Is he equally good on the selling side?
Oh, he is. Antonio really shines when it comes to marketing properties. I've seen him get top dollar for his clients' homes, even in a shifting market. He's got a knack for highlighting a property's best features and presenting it in a way that really appeals to buyers.
So it's not just about setting the right price. It's about showcasing your home in the best possible light. What are some things sellers can do to, I don't know, make their homes more appealing to potential buyers?
You'd be surprised how much a little sprucing up can do. Declutter, depersonalize, give your home a fresh coat of paint. Consider staging to create a welcoming atmosphere. Remember, you're not just selling a house, you're selling a lifestyle.
It's about creating that emotional connection,
Yeah.
helping buyers see themselves living in that space.
Exactly. And here's a little secret that Antonio shared with me. He actually gives a 10% discount on his commission to sellers who use him to list their homes. And he's so confident that you'll be satisfied that he lets you use that discount towards your closing costs. That's real savings right there.
Wow, that's a fantastic incentive. It sounds like he really goes above and beyond for his clients.
He does. And you can find all the details about that discount on his website, AntonioOrtigalLLC.com. Definitely worth checking out.
Okay, so we've talked about pricing strategies and presentation tips. Anything else sellers should keep in mind?
Be prepared to negotiate. Even in a seller's market, buyers will likely come in with offers below asking price. It's important to stay calm, be flexible, and have a clear understanding of your bottom line.
So being realistic, but also knowing your worth makes a lot of sense.
And remember, the goal is to find a buyer who's not only willing to pay a fair price, but who also appreciates the value of your home and the lifestyle it offers.
Well said. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here in terms of practical advice for both buyers and sellers. But before we wrap up, I'm curious to hear your perspective on something. We've talked about the data, the trends, the strategies. But at the end of the day, real estate is also a very personal and emotional journey.
Absolutely. It's about finding a place to call home, a place where you can create memories and build a future. And that's something that goes beyond numbers and spreadsheets.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's easy to get caught up in the mechanics of buying and selling, but it's important to remember that human element.
And that's why it's so crucial to find a real estate agent who not only understands the market, but who also understands your individual needs and aspirations. Someone who can guide you through the process with empathy and expertise. Someone like, well, Antonio Ortega.
He seems to be the name that keeps coming up. And I have to say, I'm starting to understand why.
He's got a great reputation in the industry for a reason. He's not just about closing deals. He's about helping people find their place in the world.
Okay, so if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, all right, I'm ready to dive into the Sunrise real estate market, but I need someone to, hold my hand through the process. What would you tell them?
I would say, do your research, ask around for recommendations, and trust your gut. But if you're looking for a starting point, I definitely suggest checking out AntonioOrtigalLLC.com. You won't regret it.
Great advice. So as we wrap up our deep dive into the Sunrise real estate market, I think the key takeaway here is that while it's a competitive market, it's also one filled with opportunity.
Absolutely. Understanding the trends, anticipating the challenges,
Yeah.
and having the right guidance can make all the difference in your success.
And finding an agent who not only knows the market, but also cares about your individual journey is essential. Well, that about wraps it up for today's deep dive. Big thanks to our expert for sharing their insights. And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us. Remember, whether you're buying or selling or just curious about the market, knowledge is power. So keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep dreaming big. Until next time.
It sounds like having someone like Antonio in your corner can really make things smoother, less stressful. For sure. For sure. It can feel like walking a tightrope sometimes. Navigating a real estate market, having an experienced guide there with you can make all the difference.
Well, I think we've covered pretty much everything about the Sunrise real estate market, at least for now.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you think our listeners should know as they, continue their research?
Just stay curious, keep learning, asking questions, and don't be afraid to reach out for help if you need it. A good real estate agent can be your advocate, your advisor, your partner in all of this. And hey, sometimes they can even save you money on those closing costs.
Great advice. And with that, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into the Sunrise real estate market. It's been a really interesting journey. I hope everyone listening feels like they've got the tools to navigate this market with confidence.
I hope so too. Whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time buyer, knowledge is power. With the right information and the right guidance, you can achieve your real estate dreams.
Well said. Thanks again for joining us on this deep dive. And happy house hunting, everyone. We'll see you next time.